Hello everyone, this is Natalie, FPL underscore Putty on Twitter. I'm here with the next video about midfielders. I've already put a video about defenders, as most of you know. Now I'm here with my midfielder video. I will talk about the midfielders that have good stats. And as you'd seen in my previous video, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go price point wise. And I will start with the highest price point and go down to the lowest. And each price point band, I will show you the players that have good stats, and then you will have to be able to pick from them basis your budget and their fixtures, or which team maybe you want to triple on or something, so you can then take your picks. So I will start with the highest price point, which is the 13 million price point. So if you see here, there's Salah, De Bruyne, and Son. Now, obviously, these are the most bankable players. They've got the best stats, and Salah is probably the most consistent FPL player in through the whole season. So yeah, what can I say? But obviously, the stats are really good for De Bruyne and Son as well. But I would probably go with Salah. And at some point, Son. I used to have Son at some point, but I think I moved away from Salah very rarely. But that's me. And everybody thinks differently, and people have their own reasons for picking players. So I would definitely take a Salah. Moving on, this is the 10 million price point, and there's Bruno Fernandes and Sterling here. Now, if you will look at this table, Bruno's stats are better. But a lot of people are talking about Sterling currently, and I don't know, he seems to be gaining more popularity and he's becoming the buzz. So even one of my drafts has probably got Sterling in them. So that's a thing. I mean, he's probably the latest fad or whatever, the more popular player right now than Bruno. But yeah, so again, you can choose from among these if you can fit them in your team if you have the budget. Moving on to the 8.5 8 million bracket. There are a lot of players here, as you can see. But if it was me, I would probably go with Madison, Mount, or I'm sorry, Madison, Saka, or Kulu, not Mount. And I've had most of the other players, not Bowen, but Foden, Mount, and Mahrez, I've had at some point or other in my team, and they haven't really worked for me. And these three have. Madison was the only player that I chose as a captain who didn't flop for me. Yeah, I've ranted about my captaincy jinx a lot of times, so I'm sure you're familiar with this. But Madison was the one player that I chose in the final game week, and I captained him, and he hauled for me. I mean, so I have a special place in my heart for him. But Saka and Kulu have also done well, and Madison in my free hit game week 37 also got me some 25 points. So yeah, I would pick him. So I would pick Saka, Madison, or Akulu. And the others haven't done well for me. So maybe this is a biased perspective in my case, because I'm tending to choose the players that have done well for me in the last season and tending to throw out those that didn't do well for me. So maybe this is a biased person here. But yeah, you take your own call. And here are the stats to help you decide that. Moving on to the 7.57 million bracket, has Gundogan, Bernardo, Grealish, Zaha, and Harvey Barnes. Here again, I would probably pick a Zaha. Though I don't really think Crystal Palace is a very bankable team, but Zaha as a player I like. He's worked for me in the past. I don't think I've had any of the others, but Grealish also maybe. Um, Again, if you look at the stats, then you can clearly see that Zaha has good stats, but the others are also not terrible, honestly. In some of the stats are very competitive. They're very similar in some cases, some of the parameters. But yep, I've had Zaha. He's worked. So I would probably go with him. But yeah, depends on the fixtures as well, and depends on what's happening and players' form. Of course, these are all stats from the last season, and things change. So that's one thing we have to also keep in mind. But I'm just looking at stats here. Moving on to the 6.56 million bracket here. There's Odegaard, James Ward-Prowse, Mora, Ziyech, and ESR. So amongst these, if you look at the stats, then Odegaard and James Ward-Prowse have much better stats than the rest in a lot of parameters. So those seem like the more bankable players, but they're also 0.5 million more expensive. So you've got to have that spare 0.5 to pick one of these people. I have had ESR in the past. He's worked for me. So if I had to pick, I would probably pick him or a James Ward-Prowse or Odegaard, depending on the budget, fixtures, etc. But yeah, that's that. Then moving on to the lower price band. Now, in the previous few tables, you've seen that I've always clubbed a 8.5 and 8, 7.5 and 7, 6.5 and 6. I could not do this in this case because there are too many people in the 5 million band. So I've had to split the 5.5 and separate it from the 5 million picks. In the 5.5 million, you can see that there's Fornals and there's Gross. And stats, if you go by the stats, Fornals has better stats in most of the parameters. I had Gross in the beginning of the season and he did, get me points. He got returns for me. But this is a different season, so I don't know whether I will take him again or not. It depends on a lot of other factors. But these, as per stats, Fornals is obviously doing better than Gross in most parameters, except maybe key passes. Yep. But yeah, that's that. Moving on to the 5 million. Wait for it. Now look at the crowd here. And this is after I kept a few out. I mean, I picked probably about 12 or 13 people, and 5 of them that were not as good as the rest, didn't have as good stats as the rest. I moved them on to the next slide, and I will show you that. And I'm just going to mention them and not show their stats because that's just too heavy to read with like 13 people's stats. So here, now if you look at these people, the better stats are for March, Jensen, Luis. Now, I know that Zaka and Kante also have decent stats, but these are probably players that are a red flag. In terms of what I mean by a red flag is they end up getting red cards, they sit out. So even if he has good stats, if he doesn't play, how does it help? So I mean, watch out for that here. And the other bother with this price point is that even if you're going to pick this price point to be able to get a player that is cheap, so you have funds freed up for other players or other positions. And in that case, why would you not just take a 4.5 player and save an additional 0.5 million and make that player sit on your bench? Why would you go for a 5 million player at all? Unless there was an overwhelming reason to do so, as in the player's form was really good or the fixtures were great. People would probably just pick a 4.5 player and just save that additional 0.5 million to invest elsewhere. So here, I don't know. I mean, would I take a Douglas Lewis? Would I take a Kovacic? Teams, maybe because there's his stats are better or the fixtures are better or the team is better. But I don't know, maybe I would probably just not go to this price point at all. I would go to a 4.5, make him sit on the bench, save that 0.5, invest it elsewhere. The other players from the 5 million band that I was talking about that I would just mention are here: Romeo, Slop, Dewsbury Hall, Rice, and MacArthur. These are the other ones that have decent stats, but choose if you want to go to this price band. Take your pick. The stats are here for you. Lowest price point, 4.5. There's Moder, Winks, and Murphy. Now, here, if you look at the table, obviously Moder's stats are the best. He's better than most others, the other two, in almost all the parameters except maybe key passes. So I would pick him if I had to pick in the 4.5 band, but depends, as I said. I mean, basis stats, I would pick him. But if I had to consider other parameters, obviously things change. And this is, again, the prime thing to keep in mind here is that this is the stats from the last season. 2.5 months have passed by, things change. So form, we don't know. But okay, so in summary, I would say that if I had to pick midfielders, I would go with a Salah, Madison, Kulu, Saka, or your Moder in this range, and maybe a Zaha. So these would be people that I would pick, maybe a Douglas Lewis at some point, but that's me. And that also depends on the fixtures, on how the player is doing. Maybe his form is not good this time, injuries, etc., etc. So those are people that I would prefer in some form, in some format or the other, in some draft or the other, at some point. Yeah, that would be me. But yes, you have your own reasons for picking people. So look at the stats and you can make your choices. Please do write to me on Twitter, comment on this video, and let's chat. I read all your comments and I do respond to everything. I love reading your comments. Please tell me what you're thinking of. Who are the midfielders that you're looking at? Who do you think are the good ones? What's your strategy? Why? How are you choosing people? Let's talk about it. Let's chat. Do like, share, and subscribe to this video. It would mean a lot to me. And all the best for the season. There's just barely any time left. So let's, get to it, get started, and take care. Good luck. Bye-bye.